It's more important than ever to keep an eye on retirement.
Hi, and welcome into Eye on Retirement, the weekly show that keeps you in the know about all things retirement. I'm your host, Joshua Sikora, and today we're talking about elephants in the room. And that's exactly why we've gathered a team of professionals for this episode. Today, our panel includes Larry Kloefkorn, financial advisor and founding partner of Market Advisory Group, Lauren Dietz, tax advisor from Market Tax Services, Gerald Eidelman, estate planning attorney and founder of Eidelman Law Firm, and Taylor Bevan, healthcare advisor from Market Medicare Advisors. Welcome in, everyone.
Thank you.
Now, Larry, you've got an interesting client story for us today. Isn't that right?
Yes, I do. So this is about Betty and Don, not their real names.
Of course.
But we like Betty and Don.
We
anyway. She retired 2 years ago, and Don is still working. She has retirement accounts that are still at the former employer. She's never moved them. And after attending one of our classes in the area, because a lot of our viewers know this and some of them don't, is that we do educational workshop around the city. They decided to meet with us because we have so many different services for the people who are retiring or are retired in. We have all of it right here in the building together. And that drew them in to at least come in and have a conversation. As I was getting to know them, I asked Don where he was at in his retirement. And he said that he's still working full time. He says that he's kind of going through a difficult adjustment because these people that he's worked with for most of his working career are now starting to talk about retiring. And he said that's never been part of their conversations before. And he had just thought himself that he would work maybe to age 75 if the company so wanted him to do it. And so it was making him think that, well, if all of my coworkers that I'm friends with are going to retire, I'm not sure that I want to keep that same plan that I had of working to 75.
So then what really were Betty and Don's concerns or worries about retirement?
Well, they had the concern that something might fall through the cracks. They were concerned, first of all, that they didn't know how to apply their assets, how to invest them. They weren't sure which of their retirement tax status assets they should draw from first when they're both out of the workforce. They're going to need more than just Social Security, so that's what they've saved all these years for, is to supplement their income. And so that's a concern of theirs. And then, of course, Betty is not that far away from Medicare age, so she is starting to focus a lot on that. And so there were several things. Now, when I'm in a meeting, these first face-to-face meetings, we are just trying to get familiar with each other, and I'm trying to find out what do these people really need. The big concern that brought them to us has to do with taxes. Now, I'm not licensed to do taxes, so that's when I went down the hall to find Lauren, because she is highly qualified to talk taxes.
Yeah, tax is a big hairy elephant in the room. Lauren Dietz from Market Tax Services. How did that conversation go with Betty and Don?
So when I walked in, they started asking about their pre-tax accounts. So these are all of their 401ks, all of those accounts they've been contributing to for their whole working life. They knew they were going to have to start taking contributions when they hit a certain age. So that was a big concern to them, and how much that was going to be. And honestly, if I had a nickel for every time someone asked about that, we'd have enough nickels that Uncle Sam would want a piece of that. So they also already had a Roth IRA that they had been contributing to over the years, which was a great thing. We don't see a lot of people that have been doing that for a long time. They wish they had put more into it versus those pre-tax accounts, of course. And they were interested in trying to get some of that money. Well, what they didn't know, which we talked about in that appointment, was that they could actually convert the money from those pre-tax accounts into the Roth and let it continue to grow tax-free. And then when they take it out, they don't ever have to worry about paying tax on it again. So they were really excited to know that that was an option, but it's definitely something that you don't want to just go willy-nilly and convert, a huge lump of money in one single year. That's not the way to do it. So we told them, we have a process for this. This is something that we like to sit down with clients and their advisor in the fourth quarter and discuss if there is an opportunity that year. And it's really a matter of how comfortable they are with paying tax now and not having to deal with it in the future. So we look at that every year and check and see how much tax they've got left in the bracket that they're comfortable with staying in.
Yeah, so now, Larry, you noticed something else about their income that we haven't even talked about yet, right?
Taxes, if they're the elephant, what they didn't know is that there was another one right behind it.
How many elephants are hiding in your retirement plan? Sometimes all it takes to find out is a 15-minute phone conversation. To set up that introductory phone call, just reach out at 833-44-CORE4. That's 833-442-6734. Or check out our website at retirementhelp.com. That's our new online resource we have set up to educate people just like you about all things retirement. When we come back, we'll be continuing Betty and Don's story with the healthcare. Stay tuned. Welcome back into Eye on Retirement. Last segment, we were talking about Betty and Don. They were worried about the elephant in the room called taxes. But there was something else behind that elephant, right, Larry?
Yes. And one of the things that, as Lauren was talking to Betty and Don, I noticed something with their finances and their savings. When there's someone else that's in the room helping, address these special needs, it gives me a chance to look over more of what they have. They had over $1 million of their nest egg. Over $1 million of it was in non-qualified, it's called now. Non-qualified essentially is a tax verbiage for not retirement funds. Mm-hmm. So in other words, it's like savings money. They've already paid taxes on it. And so this non-qualified money, being so much of it being in CDs, that was giving them something inefficient.
Yeah, so let's pop back over to Lauren to explain why that might be a detriment for a retiree.
Right. So when they have a lot of their money tied up in CDs, say, you're getting 4% interest out of that CD, and that feels nice. But what you're not thinking about is that this is all after-tax money, and you're going to get a 1099 at the end of the year for this. And what people don't realize is all of that interest is going to influence how much of how much taxes they're going to be paying across the board. So it's going to creep them up into possibly another tax bracket. So, say you're getting 4% interest on this CD and you're in a 22% bracket. Well, Uncle Sam's just taxing that as ordinary income. So he wants 22% of that 4%. And then what a lot of states, whatever state you live in, will want to tax that as well. So all of a sudden, that 4% is now really close to more like 3%. And if you've got half your money in CDs, that could cost you a lot in taxes, even in a single year, as opposed to those pre-tax accounts where they're going to be growing and growing, and you don't have to pay tax on those gains until you start taking the money back out. But if it's in a Roth, then it can grow and grow and grow, and it can continue growing forever, and you never have to worry about the taxes. But that elephant behind the other elephant, now we're 3 elephants in, is IRMA.
Now wait, that's a healthcare term, right?
Yes, it is. And it's relevant here because it is about time for Betty to go on Medicare.
Sure.
And she is needing to have her meetings right away, and that's where we have a special department for that. And it's great that we have a bridge to Medicare. That's great too, but she's really ready to be there.
So let's turn to Taylor Bevan from Market Medicare Advisors. What is this IRMA that Lauren was talking about?
Well, it's not a funny aunt that comes to visit you. IRMA is an income-related monthly adjustment amount. The kind of like sticky thing about IRMA is that it looks at your income 2 years back. So it will look 2 years back at your modified adjusted gross income, which is the key term because they include the tax-free interest back into that number when they determine if you've triggered it or not. And so we really have to be careful about that when we're, planning, those Roth conversions, because we don't want to trigger those additional premiums on their Part B and Part D Medicare. For 2025, those income limits for just a single filer were 106. If you were married filing jointly, it is 212. But unfortunately, if you trigger that as a married couple, they both get the additional premiums on their Medicare. So even if she's just on Medicare right now, as soon as her husband goes to get on Medicare, he's also going to have those additional premiums, and they are a lifetime a lifetime premium increase as long as your income continues to stay above those thresholds. There are a few cases where, we can submit a appeal letter if it's a one-off situation that is not their typical tax year. There's no guarantee that those letters get approved, but there is a potential sometimes for us to be able to help clients reduce that IRMA, maybe down a tax bracket or a IRMA tier, or potentially get them out of having that IRMA charge if their income were to drop low enough after a tax season.
Wow, that sounds complicated, and it's easy to see how people could trigger that unintentionally. IRMA is just one of these things that seems like it's a Medicare thing, but is triggered by Uncle Sam looking at your taxes. Taxes are triggered by how much income you have, so it's also a financial issue. So it's something that can fall between the cracks if you don't have a whole team working together for you. To set up a 15-minute introductory call, just to see if we're the team for you, reach out right now at 833-44-CORE4. That's 833-442-6734. Or check out our website at retirementhelp.com. There, you can also watch past episodes or submit a question for us to possibly answer in a future episode. When we come back, we'll be finishing up Betty and Don's story with the final elephant, estate planning. Stay tuned. Welcome back into Eye on Retirement. This episode, we've covered investments, taxes, healthcare, but there was one more elephant in the room, right, Larry?
Yes, and this elephant is important. Betty informed me that she and Don have a will that was formed 20 years ago. They said, they think nothing has changed other than they'd like to add one person. I'm not so sure that 20 years, there could only be one change. So I need someone like an attorney that specializes in estate plans to talk with them.
So Gerald Eidelman, founder Eidelman Law Firm, what was this elephant?
Well, obviously the age of the estate plan was way past its due date. The fact is that, we tell people to revise or at least look at their plans every 3 to 5 years. They hadn't done it in 20 years. And all they had was a will. That's the worst part. And this will was written by one of the two of them had one of these prepaid legal services at work, and they went to them to do a estate plan, and all they got out of it was a will. And a will is not sufficient to be able to handle your estate. It handles what happens to you after death. It doesn't deal with what happens to you while you're living, which is actually very important. So the will we knew had to be changed, but also had to update to the current environment of the law, the current interpretation of the law, and also to expand it. In the 20 years that had gone by, they had grandchildren that they wanted to leave something to. There were some charities that had become. She was very interested in leaving some money to Big Dog Charity. And so there was a lot of different implements that needed to be put into this estate plan that was simply missing. Beyond that, they were missing the most important part that you need to have while you're alive, and that's powers of attorney. Here they were, they had 3 kids, and if anything happened to both of them, or if one was the survivor of them, and they couldn't take care of themselves, they had nothing in place for anybody else to be able to do so. But what it had meant is that the kids would have to have gone to court, spend a few months, it can be done pretty quickly, but a couple of months at least, in trying to get a guardianship and conservatorship, spend $4,000 or $5,000 in the process, and then be able to manage mom or dad's affairs. When in reality, you could get it done today and have it set for the time that it comes into place. It's also important between spouses because they had a significant amount of money in retirement accounts. Well, retirement accounts are individual to each person, and that means that the other person, even though you're married to them, can't touch your retirement accounts. What if one of them needed to go to to long-term care? What if one of them needed to tap into these resources? They would have been blocked off, again, without having, unless they go to court, been blocked off from touching that money. And so this is very important to have these things in place because life circumstances happen. I had somebody the other day, just 2 days ago, their wife is diagnosed with dementia, and somebody's going to have to take care of her and her affairs. Somebody's going to have to sign off on her behalf when they sell off the house. And another thing that they hadn't considered and they hadn't brought into that I had to bring into their foremind is that, look, the current situation is, it used to be that about 50% of the people would have a chance of going to a long-term care. Now that number seems to be higher, as high as 70%. They had made plans for it. We had a way to help them save their assets so they could go to the heirs, to the charity, and we encouraged them to start beginning that plan that would take a significant amount of time.
Now, I want to address this before we wrap up, and that is emphasizing that Betty and Don came to us really primarily worried about taxes. And it might feel to viewers as though we're kind of the greasy mechanic who tells Betty and Don that even though they just came in from an oil change, they need a lot of repairs, and they're going to be expensive by the time you add parts and labor and so forth. But that's not what this is about. As a fiduciary, it's my job to make sure that we are addressing the client's best interest and that all these elephants are addressed. I started to say uncover, but elephants don't typically get covered up unless they're behind another elephant, which is the case here. Sometimes people we meet with become clients and we can address all the issues we've uncovered in their situation. And sometimes they don't, and they can go back to their current advisors and hopefully address them. And that's okay too.
Just like Larry said, we're here to be a resource. If you'd like to set up a 15-minute introductory call to see what might be lurking in your retirement plan, like an elephant, reach out to us at 833-44-CORE4. That's 833-442-6734. Or check out our website at retirementhelp.com. There, you can also watch past episodes, research your retirement questions, or set up that 15-minute call with one of our advisors. Well, now that's all the time we have for this week. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Joshua Sikora, along with the entire panel, reminding you that we're here to keep an eye on retirement.
Investment advisory services are duly offered through Foundations Investment Advisors LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor, and Market Investment Group LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. The investment advisor representatives of Market are also affiliated with and registered through Foundations Investment Advisors LLC, and may provide services on behalf of both firms to client or prospective clients where properly licensed or exempt. This show is presented by Market Investment Group LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor that only conducts business in jurisdictions where it is properly registered or is excluded or exempted from registration requirements. Registration as an investment advisor is not an endorsement of the firm by securities regulators and does not mean that the advisor has achieved a specific level of skill or ability. The firm is not engaged in the practice of law or accounting. The information presented is believed to be current. It should not be viewed as personalized investment advice. All expressions of opinion reflect the judgment of the presenter on the date of the show's publication and are subject to change. The information presented is not an offer to buy or sell or a solicitation of any offer to buy or sell any of the securities discussed. You should consult with a professional advisor before implementing any of the strategies discussed. Any legal or tax information provided in this show is general in nature. Always consult an attorney or tax professional regarding your specific legal or tax situation. Annuity and life insurance guarantees are subject to the claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. If you withdraw money from or surrender your contract within a certain time after investing, the insurance company may assess a surrender charge. Withdrawals may be subject to tax penalties and income taxes. Persons selling annuities and other insurance products receive compensation for these transactions. These commissions are separate and distinct from fees charged for advisory services. Insurance products also contain additional fees and expenses. Social Security rules and regulations are subject to change at any time. Always consult with your local Social Security office before acting upon any information provided herein. A Roth conversion may not be suitable for your situation. The primary goal in converting retirement assets into a Roth IRA is to reduce the future tax liability on the distributions you take in retirement or on the distributions of your beneficiaries. The information provided is to help you determine whether or not a Roth IRA conversion may be appropriate for your particular circumstances. Please review your retirement savings, tax, and legacy planning strategies with your legal/tax advisor to be sure a Roth IRA conversion fits into your planning strategies. This is not endorsed by the U.S. government or associated with any federal Medicare program. We do not offer every plan available in your area. Any information we provide is limited to those plans we do offer in your area. Please contact Medicare.gov or 1-800-Medicare to get information on all your options. All client or prospective client names have been changed to protect the identities of the individuals discussed. All rights reserved.